Hello and welcome to another episode of the Language Hacking Podcast. Today I'm doing another short form Ask Benny episode where I take a specific topic that you guys have been interested in and dive into it entirely over this episode. So I talk about this topic many times over the years, and that is the Pomodoro Technique. And I want to talk about that in specific detail right now. So this was actually developed by this guy Francesco Cirillo in the late 80s, and he came up with the idea because he noticed that he had just happened to have a kitchen timer that was shaped like a tomato, which in Italian is pomodoro. And just based on that, just a regular tomato shaped kitchen timer, he decided to use this to help him with his productivity by creating little time blocks that he would work in. So that's expanded to so many other people implementing this. And I've especially found this useful because I have to deal with ADHD attention issues where I get very easily distracted and I have trouble focusing on tasks for very long stretches of time. So I've used this system myself many times over the years. So the way it works is that you decide on the specific task that you want to get done. Only one thing. This is not about splitting your attention. And you set the Pomodoro timer for focusing on just that one task. The typical time used is 25 minutes. You don't necessarily have to go for this time. I personally find it works very well for me. It's just enough time for me to get an intensive amount of focus on one task, but not too long that I'm going to eventually lose that focus. So you have your one task, you're focusing on it for 25 minutes, and that's all you're doing. You're not splitting your attention. So that means that I tend to make sure that if I'm tempted to go check social media or to send a text message to somebody, I don't give in to that temptation. And that's the difference between me just doing some general work and actually deciding I am focusing during a Pomodoro, a 25-minute session. Nothing else gets in. And then when the timer runs out at the end of the 25 minutes, I give myself a genuine break. So for the next 5 minutes or 10 minutes, I do look at social media. I do open up the news, or I stand up and I look out the window at the birds tweeting or whatever it is that I feel I need to kind of relax and not be in that intensive focus mode and give myself permission to do these things. Because if I'm not giving myself that permission, then if I'm just generally working, maybe 5 minutes into it, I might feel the temptation to do something unproductive. And if I give in to that temptation, I've lost momentum. Whereas this way, rather than just having the internal motivation to just never be distracted, I don't fight against distraction. I time box the distractions. So 5 or 10 minutes after a Pomodoro, I embrace this. I am allowed to have these distractions. And this means that I don't feel like I have to give into it during the Pomodoros. So generally, you do this intensive work block and you give yourself a 5-minute break, and then you go back and you do another intensive work block. Typically, this is done for maybe 3 or 4 sessions in a row, 4 sessions of 25 minutes of focused attention, followed by 5 minutes of a break, leads to 2 hours. So even though you have taken 5 times the 4 of 20 minutes of breaks, you have at least over this 2 hours have been mostly focused. And this is how I've done things like writing books and learning languages, by creating these little bursts of focus despite my attention issues. And maybe after the 2-hour session, you'll take a much longer break and you'll come back to the Pomodoro technique. So it's a very simple concept, similar to the concept of time boxing, where you plan your day and you decide, okay, I know this is going to take me about 1.5 hours. Therefore, I'm going to dedicate 3 Pomodoros, 3 bursts of 25 minutes where I'm doing this task. And that way you actually tick it off your to-do lists. And it's a much more intentional way about going about your day, especially good if you're not that great at gauging how long things might take, because I'm very bad at this. So I might imagine it might take an hour and a half. And if I'm mostly through it, then I know I have to create a separate unit. It's like an atom that doesn't get broken down. If I finish the task within that, then that's great. And I can potentially go on to something else or do something similar within that task. But generally, it's helped me to quantify how long I feel tasks are going to take and to focus on those tasks for that amount of time. Now, you don't have to do what was originally done to have an actual kitchen timer that looks like a tomato. It can just be literally anything. It can just be the countdown timer on your phone. It can be a little clock that you have. It can be your oven clock, whatever you happen to have handy. Usually your phone is plenty good. The default timer app is fine. You don't need a specialized app for this. And try it out and see, can you focus on whatever it is you need to do, be that studying your target language or going through a particular chapter of your grammar book, whatever it may be. Give yourself this dedicated time, and when that temptation to be distracted comes up, rather than just being the kind of person who never gets distracted, that can be something you can aspire to. I have personally never reached that. But rather than try to be that person, try to be the person who decides, okay, I am going to be distracted, but I'm going to be distracted in these particular moments so that in these other moments, I'm not distracted. And that is in a nutshell what the Pomodoro technique is based on. So hopefully you found that interesting. I love to hear from you guys, so make sure to reach out to me on social media. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Irish Polyglot, also TikTok at Irish Polyglot. So I'm all over the internet. Send me your questions and I might make them the focus of a future episode. Hopefully you found that useful, and until next time, happy language learning.